welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
And I'm Andrew Sabo.
And we are here to conclude the Rydell Saga, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's over, ...
Right. There's definitely not another episode coming out in January.
Eyebrows.
Yeah. I unfortunately think we have committed to covering every Rydell Saga until we die, so that's fun.
Well, I don't know when you say we. What do you mean, we? No, but yeah, I've enjoyed it enough, and I am excited about the continuation of the characters because...
And I'm down to do, like, 1 or 2 a year.
Exactly. And if that's what they come out in...
Yeah.
I'm not complaining.
If they drop, like, a 6-parter, I think I might quit.
Yeah, that's a lot of Maury. It's a lot of his voice.
Yeah.
And Atticus Schaefer, if you're listening. I know you are. You know, your voice is fine, but it does get old.
Yeah. So, we're talking about Rydell Revelations Part 3. It's episode 900 of Adventures in Odyssey, somehow.
Yeah. That we,
Yeah.
This, okay.
Come back in, like, 7 years when they do episode 1000.
Yeah. And they probably will.
They're putting out, like, 24 episodes a year. So, that's, like, 4 years.
Yeah. They'll make it to 1,000. Maybe they'll call it quits at 1,000. We can hope.
Maybe Blackwood will come back and kill Wit.
Oh. And then Connie can take over as the counselor role that they're training in.
Yeah. And then Will show up.
Who's Will?
No, Wheel.
Oh, Wheel show up. Yes. We could be the new crying Brian Dern. The pessimistic Christians.
Yeah.
On the radio.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. We're doing great.
So good. So this is an episode, unsurprisingly, written and directed by Phil Lawler.
What a guy.
Gotta love him.
He's got a first name and a last name. And probably a middle, but I don't know it.
That's true. It was released on the AIO Club July 28th of 2020, and it aired on the radio October 17th of 2020. It's track 3 on Album 69, Best Kept Secrets.
Yeah.
The most recent album of Adventures in Odyssey at the time of recording.
Yeah, this is as new as Odyssey gets.
For now.
Yep.
Not counting the club exclusives.
Yeah, who does?
I apparently Odyssey, because they do number them.
So we're going to start numbering our holiday episodes?
We are starting to number our holiday episodes. Tune in for that next week.
This is when we have a jingle that comes in and goes, do, and then we can come back to the show.
Really?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just feel like with plugs, it's kind of...
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's what we need in 2021 is more musical
bits.
cues.
More bits.
Yeah, we used to have bits.
Now we just have this. We just have Maury.
The show, I think, was supposed to be a comedy podcast when we started it.
Yeah. What? Wait. Oh, yeah, it was. Is it not anymore?
I mean, I think we're still funny, but it's definitely become a review show.
Yeah. Maybe it's funny people reviewing not funny stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Occasionally funny stuff.
Yeah.
We covered, what were the episodes that we liked that were funny? That wasn't meant as like a
negative, I know.
But no, we covered something where we were laughing pretty hard throughout.
Oh, well, we covered Snow Day, and that was hilarious. That was our last Christmas episode.
That was our last Christmas episode. I feel like it's been something even more recent than that, though. I mean, not that it's all comedy, but the comedy of Other Side of the Glass was
hilarious. Because it was Wooten and Bernard.
We had a, yes.
Yeah,
that was a good time. All right. So, listeners know that we have not been covering cast as we covered Rydell Revelations because we were trying heavily to avoid spoilers. So, hey, we're done with Rydell Revelations. I'm going to go
Spoiler alert!
I'm going to go through the 3 cast members that we did not get to talk about over the past few. So, we have Ren Hanami as Mrs. Mado. Mm-hmm. Ms. Mado? Mrs. Mado. Now I'm like, Ms. Mado. Why is she Mrs.?
Maybe it's a term of respect. I'm pretty sure you call, in cultures like just older women, even if they're single, Mrs.
Now I'm pulling it up, just to make sure I'm not crazy. Yeah, she's at least credited on the wiki as Mrs. Mado, because that was the whole joke. Marvelous Mrs. Mado. So yeah, I don't know why she's Mrs.
Maybe it's just for the joke.
Perhaps. Anyways, she's had a lot of like single episode on-screen appearances and stuff. She's been in episodes of Glow and Shameless and 13 Reasons Why. Also like 3 episodes of Silicon Valley. And she played a judge in the 3rd God's Not Dead movie. So there's that.
There is that. God herself. I have feelings about this episode and what it says about God, and by that I mean wit.
We'll get into it.
That we will.
We also have, last episode, we had Jason Spizak voicing Raymond Rydell. Cool dude, a lot of voiceover work, some video games, animation, some on-screen appearances. Notably for me, Wally West and Forager on Young Justice. Also voiced Razor in the Green Lantern animated series, and the one that I think Andrew might have some appreciation for, because I know I do, Lux Bonteri in Star Wars The Clone Wars.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's Maury's dad.
That's... that makes it worse. That makes it worse. But I do like The Clone Wars. I was watching The Clone Wars last night.
It's a good time.
Great time.
And
that
then,
show is...
Yeah.
Mwah.
Big fan. And then finally, we have Mandy Fabian as Tasha Forbes. So we talked last time about the fact that this is not the original Tasha voice actor. However, she previously did appear as Tasha in album 50 for 2 episodes. So she's been around, but is not like the original Tasha, though she does an amazing Tasha.
Yeah, you could have convinced
nearly
me.
indistinguishable.
I was going to say, you could have convinced me it was the same one, because it just sounds like Tasha, but older.
Yep, it sounds like Tasha. It's really great.
Great job,
she's had some television appearances over the years in 30 Rock and Grey's Anatomy, and weirdly was in Bombshell last year.
Okay.
Oscar-nominated movie. She also created a web series with Jane Lynch called Dropping the Soap.
Oh. I don't want to Google that. Nope.
And that's the context.
That's the cast for this episode.
Yeah. Tune in next episode to hear us talk about the cast for the next episode.
That is how the show works.
We have a format.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
We didn't have that when we started either.
No, we didn't. Whoa. When did we start implementing cast?
No idea.
Yeah, me neither. Let's get into the... Oh, wait, no. We do the promo first.
There's no promo. It's a 3-parter, remember?
Oh.
We had a promo for part 1 that we played during part 2, but that is it.
That would be what threw me off.
Yeah. I know. It's a little sad.
So, this episode picks up pretty much, like, chronologically, right where the other one left off. With Suzu and Emily, like, running through the woods, and they're freaking out. It's pretty insane. This is where we get, like, a lot of plot exposition in this scene as far as, like, what we thought was happening compared to what was actually happening. So the thoughts of Suzu kidnapping Emily completely debunked in this scene, because it's explained what's actually happening. Dylan, what's actually happening?
Suzu pulled Emily out of her bedroom window.
Yep. She's very strong and nimble for presumably being like 12.
Is there like... Her bedroom's on the 2nd floor. We know this because they go upstairs.
True.
When Emily walks into the house, and Suzu is upstairs, screams. That's when Emily runs upstairs.
Maybe I'm just going to choose to believe that there's a very, very well-grounded and well-built trellis that they can climb down.
Or there's a tree, or there's a porch roof, or something.
Or there was just a, 12-year-old falling 20 feet.
Right. Well, and just pulling someone out with them.
Yep. That's great. Suzu, you're definitely a mentally stable child that doesn't just like to steal things from the embassy. Spoiler.
So from there, the two of them run to Forest Mountain.
Yeah, where do they live in the suburbs? How far away is Forest Mountain? Also, Forest Mountain making a comeback and being just as underwhelming of a name as the first time.
You love to see Forest Mountain. But they then go to the shack on Forest Mountain.
Is that an established thing?
This is, well, I don't know if it
is the same.
It's the Novacom shack, right? Like the one where they've got...
Yeah. Like then, like in the finale... Oh.
That was on Forest Mountain, right?
Yeah. Forest Mountain was like... Yeah, because Whit drives his car out there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
So, I don't know. They refer to a shack on Forest Mountain.
Tweet at us.
First get a Twitter, then tweet at the Wad Fam Pod. We know you listen. And so, yeah, Suzu reveals while they're running that she thinks that Mrs. Mado is a spy. Oh, also, now that we have access to the wiki, how did you have Mado written in your notes previously?
Maydo.
I went Maidow.
Maidow?
It is Meido, which does culturally make the most sense, but I did not have that as what I had written.
Well, yeah,
that
because I always spell things the way they sound.
Yeah.
Especially if I know I'm not spelling them correctly.
Phonetics.
Mm-hmm. English is a really stupid language.
So, yeah. Mado is... But Emily thinks that Mado is a spy. That is not the sentence. Let me start over. So Suzu reveals that to Emily that she's convinced Mado is a spy. Mm-hmm. She also pulls up a trapdoor that she built.
Yep, because trapdoor ex machina.
And underneath it is just stuff she's been collecting
from embassy officials. Okay.
Right.
So these kids, and I'm willing to suspend disbelief, but they are master criminals. I'm willing to suspend disbelief that these embassy officials do not have the highest security in the land, but all I know is that whenever something bad happens to an embassy official, the entire world hears about it pretty much immediately. So these kids are bawling out right now, stealing priceless artifacts and getting involved in international espionage mischief. Yeah. That's what this episode is.
This episode's tough.
Yeah. Also, the problem of evil. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's the idea of how can evil exist in a universe that is controlled and created by an all-loving and holy God.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure... Well, we'll get into it. We'll talk about it later. But I think that's one of the questions that this episode is trying to answer, and newsflash, I don't agree.
Oh, this is great.
But I kind of do, so we'll talk about it.
Yep, that is the show. So Suzu's like, yeah, I steal gifts that, like, the emissaries bring in to give to people. I don't consider it stealing. I liked the challenge.
Yeah.
And then she reveals that, like, the reason she thinks Mado is a spy is because Natalie called her earlier that day and told her about Mado. And Natalie also revealed that she knew that Suzu had been stealing things, including a figurine that was for China from Canada.
Mm-hmm. From Russia with love.
And, yeah. Then we get the, like, explanation of what happened last You know how, like, at the beginning of Rydell Revelations, we were like, there is no way they are going to tie all this stuff in a way that's, like, consistent and satisfying. And then the first episode happened, and we were like, okay, they kind of did. And the second episode happened, and we were like, oh no, this is like, all working. And then this episode happened, and I'm like, wait, how did you tie 6 unrelated episodes together, but fail to tie 3 fully related episodes together? Because Rydell Revelations Part 1, 2, and 3 has so many, like, internal inconsistencies.
It's just the rise of Skywalker, the episode.
I don't understand how they managed this.
Yeah, no. Well, and I honestly think that's kind of just the situation that they found themselves in, and trying to... I don't know how much they knew, how much of this they had planned out, and how much of this was, like, going on as it progressed, and if...
Agreed.
Did Phil Lawler write all of it?
No.
Yeah.
But, like, at this point, these 3... he had complete control over, and they line up with the earlier stuff. They just don't line up with each other well.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that's so baffling. So
they kind of do, but not
Here's
well.
what we are to believe. So in the first episode, Maury brings in that recording. That is, Emily goes to the house, hears Suzu scream, runs upstairs, there's a struggle, her phone is left there. What actually happened? Suzu got to her house, hid while Mado tore her room apart.
Because she saw Mado, tearing her room apart, looking for her journal that had all this valuable information regarding this special... What is it, maple leaf?
Yes. So Mado hid while she tore the room apart. Sorry, Suzu hid from Mado while Mado tore the room apart. Mado left. Suzu walked into her room. Emily showed up. Suzu screamed. Emily went upstairs. Suzu dragged Emily out a window?
Yeah.
Dropped her phone and the notebook.
How did she leave her phone?
Oh
no, Emily dropped her phone.
Yeah. That's what, like, it just doesn't...
Probably just a... and then the phone fell out of her hand.
But why did she pull her out the window at that point if Mado had already gone through her room?
Why wouldn't they have just hidden, and then she could have had her phone, and then none of this
But also, where was Mado when Emily showed up? If she's not there, there's no threat and no reason they have to go out the window. If she is there, why would she just be silent?
If she's a world-class spy, why would she leave the room messy?
It just...
I have feelings.
I'm just so frustrated by, like...
I enjoyed the episode. I would like to say
I know, I did too, for the most part.
But it does not work.
Some questions, but it really falters under analysis because I'm trying to... Because, like, from the get-go, we were like, that does not sound like a struggle. And, like, we were constantly guessing at what it was. And what it actually is Suzu dragging Emily out of the window for reasons that are unclear because she's trying to get away from Mado, who doesn't appear to be in that scene. Because if she was, like... that would have come up.
Maybe she was in the bathroom.
Right, like...
and they didn't have time to get back downstairs because the bathroom was in between her and the staircase.
Yeah, it's...
Maybe that's it.
It's so...
But then how wouldn't she have noticed if she got there in the first place?
It's so weird.
I need explanation.
If someone has an idea and can explain this well, send us that. And we will try to understand what is going on here. But
I'm open to knowing. I just
don't.
don't.
I would argue that because we cannot figure it out, it may have already, like, that may mean it already failed. But still, if you've got a theory as to how this makes sense, I'm game.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway.
So it's at this point where I'm like, oh... So, she left the notebook at the house. Mado is evil, which I would like to point out you correctly predicted last episode. We were rapid-firing things at the end, and I said, "Is Mado evil?" And you said, "Yes."
100%.
It was great. And she is evil.
Oh,
this
yeah.
episode.
So, and that's again part of my question regarding Mado is, I think that she's getting sloppy. My headcanon is that this is like her last spy mission. She wants to retire.
That's not headcanon. That's stated in the episode.
Yeah. And so she's sloppy, leaves the room messy, and gives herself up. And then, by the way,
Suzu hid from her while she was tearing the room apart. And then somehow Suzu, like, that's said in the episode.
Yeah.
And then somehow Suzu got into the room, Mado disappeared, Emily showed up, and the two of them went out a window. Mm-hmm. Also that Mori could get a recording that didn't sound like Emily was kidnapping Suzu or vice versa. It's so messy.
Yeah, it doesn't line up well. We don't like messes.
It's just I'm okay with inconsistencies in a whole arc. We've talked about that with Novacom and with Blackguard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The fact that there are inconsistencies within a 3-parter
is
so weird.
It's really
I just
tough.
don't have an explanation for it.
Well, it's just the inconsistencies serve the greater means, which is
mystery.
Yeah, mystery.
Like, I guess it makes it more...
Mado had to get the journal so that she could track her to the Novacom shack on Forest Mountain,
right?
And then take.
So I have this realization here where I'm like, oh, if Mado's evil, then like the clue that she gave Wit and Mori about like the treehouse was just made up, and she's about to show up at the shack, and then she shows up at the shack.
Yep. Yeah, well, because they basically say that like Suzu's terrified that like no, if she knows it, she knows everything. She has,
and then she like kicks down the door and says, "Here's Johnny." Like it's it's so
weird and
over
crazy.
the top, like evil.
Yeah, and then the escape comes from literally Emily Parker. Okay, which again, good. This is a great Emily episode because she sacrifices herself to save Suzu.
Yeah,
but she doesn't really sacrifice herself because they make it incredibly clear that Mado did absolutely nothing to her because this is a kid's show and she is a child.
And she also has very little to do this episode,
Emily?
which is
it's unfortunate,
a bit of a bummer. Matthew's not even in it.
Yeah,
because he's out.
But then at the very end, we get Wit going, "You three are very special,"
and he loves you very much.
But he's gonna let bad things happen to you to test your ability. Because that's God. Like I said, we have feelings. It's okay. Theological differences are here, and I'm willing to make compromises and say that, you know what? I understand exactly, I feel like, not exactly, but I understand the general principle of where they're coming from as far as the compromises they're making. I would
argue that, so...
Wit shouldn't be God, though.
Right, okay, yeah. This is the point, is like... taking a step away and saying, like, regardless of what you believe, if we just take it at face value that, like, you know, God determines that bad things happen for his good, which is...
You can interpret the Bible that way, easily.
Yes.
For sure.
And
And most people... do. And I think that I know that they disagree entirely.
No. But so just because God can do that does by no means mean that Wit should do that.
But that's what they wrote Wit to be, and it's so problematic because we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
It's really hard to hold back this episode.
Yeah, it's so hard because there's so much that happens. We just glanced over the fact that Mrs. Mado literally like went full Karate Kid and chopped down the door, and then a 12-year-old threw a bunch of crates at her, and Suzu got away.
Yeah, Suzu got away with the figurine.
Yep.
Emily stays with Mado.
Which in my head, for some reason, this figurine looks like a like some sort of like acting award. It's like made of crystal. So the question is, what is the significance of the figurine? Why does Mado, who is a spy, want the figurine?
to find out, we cut to Tasha and Wit and
back
Maury
in Wit's office.
Yeah.
And we get Tasha being like, "Oh man, same Wit's end, same Wit's office," and I love it. I think it's so cool that they throw that little nostalgia bone, being like, "Oh, there's somebody who's been here before," and some things don't change. That's very nice and sweet. But then we talk about small fish, and by that I mean a microfiche.
That we do. Small fish merch coming soon.
A small fish inside of a poppy figurine.
It's a maple leaf.
I know. But the poppy would be more upsetting for Asian people, apparently.
All right. So...
Chinese, not Asian. That's racist. Sorry.
So, yeah, they... Tasha suspected, and her agency suspected that Mato was a spy. They had not been able to catch her.
Well, no, they knew she was a spy. We already knew she was a good spy, but it turns out she's a bad spy.
No. But I'm saying that, like, the two of them, like, Tasha
Yeah.
was placed at the embassy
Yeah.
because they suspected Mato of being a spy and they were trying to catch her spying.
Yeah.
So they set up a sting in which they put a very valuable microfiche with, and I quote, DNA encoded biotech in a maple leaf as bait for her. Now, you'd think if you were trying to bait an international spy, you wouldn't use something that's actually valuable.
Especially if it's on a small fish.
But they did. They went with something that's very valuable. And the way that this thing showed up is in a maple leaf figurine that was being given to China by Canada. But Tasha, who's working for an American agency, is the one who put the microfiche in it to bait Mato, who is working for undisclosed bad place.
Yeah.
Like,
undisclosed bad face, also undisclosed bad place that gives her a portable microfiche scanner that she uses and being like, plot inconvenience. This says this is legit.
Yes. We'll get into that scene, because, boy. So, right. Then, so they did this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And Tasha knew that Maury and Suzu had been stealing embassy gifts, because if she didn't know this, she'd be a bad spy.
Yes.
However, she still organizes a sting involving one of these gifts that will then be stolen by them, and she never realizes that they stole it.
Yep.
So
good at her job.
Right. So this microfiche is supposed to be Mato's last mission. Mm-hmm. We find out for reasons.
Mm-hmm. From undisclosed bad place.
Yeah. And so Maury, there's something called Remembrance Day, which is a real thing. Mm-hmm. Maury was like, oh, let me cause some chaos. And Canadians wear poppies and China hates poppies. So Maury hacked in to the Canadian, email servers and sent a message to the Canadians saying, hey, it's okay to wear poppies, even though you were briefed and told not to. Mm-hmm. And they believed that. And so they showed up with poppies and started a fight, an international incident in an embassy. And during that confusion, Suzu stole this maple leaf, which contained a microfiche that was bait for Mato, with DNA encoded biotech. And Tasha didn't know that that was stolen. She only found out that it was stolen by them today when she spied on
Mato. Right. Yeah, they were suspecting.
Tasha's agency was spying on Mato's agency and found out that they thought that Maury and Suzu had the thing. And I'm like, how did Tasha not know this? It's been months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I And then how long was she in Odyssey before this? Because then there's this idea that there are spies everywhere. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but also maybe not.
I mean, that's the...
She says she won't say, which is supposed to be like, oh, then there are. But, like, there might not be.
No, yeah.
Maybe it's just Jason.
He's living in a cabin in the woods, training, waiting to come back.
Yeah. Having been outed, he needs to come back as... I don't know. New Jason.
Batman?
Yes. Oh, that's the play. Yes.
Batman.
Yeah. Power Boy?
Oh.
Jason Whittaker is Power Boy.
Coming to a fictional theater near you.
Yeah. Because real theaters are all out of business. So pour one out.
Yeah, really?
So, yeah. So then... I don't know. Suzu, like, then barges into the room. Mm-hmm. Basically knocks down the door is what it sounds like. And she's got the maple leaf. Mm-hmm. And Tasha's like, where's the microfiche? And Wit's like, where's Emily? Yeah. And this becomes, like, a thing that they argue about.
Well, and
which is more important.
When I was listening to this, I was like, yeah, wait, no, we don't care about the corporate thing. We want the child. There's a child.
Yeah, no. I mean, I agree, but Tasha doesn't, and that's also her job.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not really judgment on Tasha.
Nope.
But so that it's at this exact moment, because of course it is, that oh well, and there's Suzu and Tasha bond over her being Natalie, and they kind of catch each other up. And then Mado calls Emily's phone that Mori has.
Yes.
Without a passcode, because he got the passcode out of her locker.
Wait. He got the passcode out of Emily's locker. Why did she have her passcode in her locker? How did this come back? How? How did that stupid joke come back?
It does, because I am stubborn. So...
Right. No, it shouldn't have been written in there.
I agree. So they talk on the phone, and Wit talks to Emily, and she says that Mado wants to swap the microfiche for Emily, which of course... How many times have we had, like, Odyssey villain has a hostage negotiation?
Every time?
Right, like, that's...
Every time!
I realize that's also, like, most things. It's not just an Odyssey trope, but it is weird that, like, every arc has a hostage negotiation.
Well, and now that we're treating these characters like people, I cannot wait for the therapy episode after this one, where Emily, like, basically almost dies, like, 3 times, and she's like, I'm okay. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Nobody should be allowed around Wit after this, and nobody should be, like, allowed around, the Rydells. Like,
yes. Yep. Uh-huh.
As far as safety is concerned, well, it's not.
Amen to that. So, right. Emily explains that she's in this bunker and references the escape room and the portable imagination station, which is like, oh, okay. So, like, they're going to do some sort of, like, she's doing the Tasha blinking hints, but in a less cool way to them, like everyone does in every hostage negotiation.
Yep, in Odyssey, but it's not blinking, because Phil Lawler wrote that one too.
He did. That's a good one. It's one of the best.
Yeah. So yeah, where do we go from here?
They're gonna do a swap at the old waterworks at 5 with Suzu alone, because it's a hostage negotiation in Odyssey, which happens every week.
Is it at 5 or is it at 6?
It is at 5.
The wiki says 6.
Well, the wiki is wrong.
Well, it's worth noting. At the waterworks at 6 is what the wiki says.
Wow. Now I'm trying to find that.
The second to last paragraph. Very beginning.
At the waterworks at 6. Yeah, it's at 5.
Well,
pour one
out for the wiki. It's a good thing we know somebody.
Wit and Tasha then argue about who it's more important to bring. Like, is it more important to get Emily to keep the information, whatever? And Maury's like, we've got a way to do both, and we're going to have to work together. So everybody team up. Let's go.
Yeah, but you're going to have to trust me. And they're like, well, I guess to save the child, we'll have to trust the other child who's also a criminal mastermind.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So they're going to use his box and make some sort of simulation, and it's going to be kind of yada-yada'd.
Mm-hmm.
And I was right.
Yep.
So Suzu goes to meet Mado.
Mm-hmm.
Emily is handcuffed to a chair.
Yep. Terrifyingly so. How good are you? Like, how are you doing? Are you okay? She's like, well as anybody can be who's handcuffed to a chair, which is true, but like also, she is 12.
Yes. Then we get possibly the worst line of dialogue in any Odyssey episode, which is Mado saying, "You look different somehow," and Suzu responding, "It's what happens when someone you trust betrays you."
Ugh. Yeah, you look like augmented reality.
Right.
Is that super meta and deep, or is it just bad writing?
It's just a clunky line of dialogue.
It's clunky. Yeah.
I don't know.
Stack of cobblestone
worst.
Right there.
I maybe went overboard in saying it's the worst dialogue in the show. I'm positive that there is worse.
We've heard some pretty funny stuff.
But it just, it's so clunky, and it just feels like they're trying to like slightly set up that Mado's like aware that something's going on here, but like not at all.
Well, they just don't have the time. It's 25 minutes, and we've had so much action this episode because there was so much that needed to happen. Like, we had 50 minutes of setup for 25 minutes of action. And this episode is all of the action.
Yeah. I would also
this is the battle of 5 armies of this episode.
Yeah.
Of this arc.
Other thing, now that I'm looking at the
it's actually a pretty strong
description in Rydell Revelations Part 3 on the wiki, they alternate the spellings of Mado. Sometimes it's Meido and sometimes it's Mado. In like the same sentence.
I see
or like
here.
sentences next to each other. So.
What's the character? The character is written as Meido.
Yes, but I don't know if that's canon or if that's speculation. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
There's then this. So it's that line of dialogue.
Yep.
Then Mado monologues for a while.
Yep.
Suzu gets the leaf out of her backpack.
Yep.
Mado takes it and smashes it.
Grabs the microfiche.
Emily goes, "That's a microfiche." Because she's a nerd.
Yep.
Mado then breaks out a portable scanner and verifies that the microfiche is authentic. Tells Suzu that there's a key hanging from the ceiling that will unlock the handcuffs.
Yep. And there's a ladder there.
Then she tries to exit the door and the doors are locked.
Yep.
Then Mori starts talking through the ceiling but is using a voice modulator for some reason, even though she's like, "Mori, is that you?" And it's immediately like, yes. Like, everyone knows it's Mori. Why is he modulating his voice?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think it's a lot more fun if he doesn't modulate his voice. And just be like, "Aha, you're getting punked, kid."
So, Mado then grabs Suzu and puts her in a chokehold.
Yeah.
Mori says, "The waterworks still has water in the pipes," and starts to fill the room with water. Mado calls his bluff.
Yeah.
And is like, "You're not going to kill your sister and your friend." And, what's her name? Emily's like, "Well, he already tried to suck the oxygen out of the room," which, one, she knows isn't true. Mm-hmm. So is she intentionally trying to sell this, or does she think Mori doesn't care if she dies? I'm not entirely sure.
I don't think that she is either.
Yeah. And then Wit comes in.
Yep.
And is like, "You gotta see this, Mado." And Suzu walks in behind her.
Yep.
The Suzu that Mado is holding transforms into Tasha.
Who roundhouse kicks her to the face.
Right. Who in the Mado's confusion takes her down and, hey, the good guys have won.
Great.
This is such a bad sequence.
Yeah, you're right. What you said about this being a very, it does connect all of it together, just not in a very, cohesive way.
It's like if this is like
I don't know how you can connect stuff uncohesively, but this episode did it.
Yeah, it's
like when you put a puzzle together, but you just get lazy and just start kind of pushing the pieces together. It's like, well,
right. So then Tasha takes down Mado, grabs the microfiche from her, and Maury runs in and is so excited, and Whit unlocks Emily from the chair. And there we go. We concluded things. Yay! You know, the room was a sim. I was right. And Whit does this really casual drop that has me very interested in what Odyssey's plan for this is, where he talks about the fact that they like combined like Maury's box tech with the idea of the escape room, and also Whit was working on some tech to make people transform.
Yeah.
So we can't break down that. One, this is such a visual sequence that it's hard to understand what's going on in the audio drama. And I don't want to nitpick the logistics of like how it all worked or happened, because it's not gonna hold up.
No, obviously, but most Odyssey stuff doesn't.
Yeah, but like especially just like, I don't know.
So again,
like, no, I can't leave this. Like, what was their idea? That Maury was gonna like speak, like, so they went into the waterworks before Mado was there, so they could set up projectors. But I guess it's all happening in Mado's head, because that's what happened with Emily. But is it actually happening in the physical space, or is it's all just in her head? Do they know? So did they know what her scanner was going to look like and create like a digital copy of the microfiche, or is this like AR? Like, I don't understand. And how is a full-sized Tasha able to disguise herself as Suzu and be put in that chokehold, and Mado doesn't realize that it's a different person? And like all of that was just so they could like catch Mado. Like,
it's clearly the Scarecrow stuff that he sprays in Batman Begins. That makes the bad person see stuff.
They wanted Maury to be there and to be the key component in bringing her down. However, Maury doesn't really, like, all of this is just so that, like, Tasha can kick her and they win.
Yeah. Well, and they also haven't set up Maury. They haven't explained anything that Maury's been doing for the most part. They just say, he's good at computers. Yeah. He can do whatever he wants.
He's very mathy.
He does math.
Like, it's
and math solve problem, yes.
Yeah, it's just, I don't really get it.
I don't either.
It's not a clear or clean sequence, and it just kind of
the only way to appreciate it is to just go past it at driving speed and be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, right, maybe if we weren't trying to analyze this, we could kind of be like, oh, okay.
Well, and that's what I was kind of saying earlier, where it's like, I genuinely did enjoy this episode, but it falls apart under the smallest amount of scrutiny.
Oh, so it actually is Rise of Skywalker.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Where,
like, I went to the movies and was like, oh yeah, that was fun, and then I left and I was like, what was that movie?
Bad.
That sucked.
You tried to tie together 8 completely unrelated films, and you used Emperor Palpatine? I'm just talking about the movie now. But anyway.
No, that's fair.
Can we now talk about Whit being God and the problem of evil? Because I've been waiting.
Okay.
And by waiting, I mean not really.
We need to tie up a little bit here, I think.
Go for it.
Which is just like, Tasha hugs Maury and Suzu, says bye, tells Whit not to say anything to Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Whit returns Emily's phone to her, and Emily's like, and Maury's like, oh, you can finish your thing now, and she's like, yeah, I guess I was wrong, it wasn't you, it was you and Suzu. And then Whit says that he knew everything, including the escape room.
So does he say that he knew everything? Like, my question is, does he know stuff? He said earlier that he didn't know when it was happening. He didn't know the escape room. He knew that Maury was capable of this stuff. And as long as that's the case, then I feel okay about it. But it does not seem that that's the case.
He makes a point to say, like, he allowed all of this to happen.
Because he's God, and God has to have justice. And
I have to get into that with you. But first, we just have to understand what's going on here.
Yep, I know.
Which is, Whit just basically says, like, that he knew everything that was happening.
But then he let it go anyway.
He congratulates Emily on solving it all.
Yep.
And he says he thinks maybe he should have stepped in sooner, but that he didn't because, quote, you three are special.
Yeah.
He then asks...
You get extra trauma.
He then asks Emily about the parable of the talents.
Yep.
And she summarizes it. And Whit says, I think the part that's often glossed over is the line where the master gave them talents, each according to their ability. Which, just a fun thing, is also a part of, that's a part of a Karl Marx quote.
Mm-hmm.
Which, obviously, I mean, he's drawing on the Bible for that quote, but regardless, from each according to his ability to each according to his needs is the Communist Manifesto.
Oh, I know, I own it.
And so, it's just, I don't know, it's just any sort of, even, obviously, both are referencing the Bible. It's not like Whit is referencing Karl Marx. I just think it's so funny to think about Whit and a communist in the same breath.
Yeah.
Point proven.
Everybody just gets smaller sized ice creams. It would make sense. They're always free. Anyway, what's a communist? You heard it here, folks.
So he then says, you three need to use your abilities.
Yep.
I see so much of myself in you, and when I was growing up, I was given the opportunity to live up to my potential.
Didn't his mom die at a traumatically young age?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It basically feels like old person thinks kids have too much supervision now. Is the way that reads.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Is just for like, sure. Oh yes, kids these days don't actually get to go out and adventure and do things on their own. Now they're like heavily monitored, and because of that, like...
And also video games are evil.
Right, and so because of all that, like, they're becoming... Like, they're growing up to be worse people who don't have real life experience. And it's like, I
don't think
I disagree if that's the point you're making, which maybe it's not, but it's the way it feels.
Yeah. And I would question how many children you've talked to, because I would say that children nowadays know way more than I do when I was a kid.
And Whit says that he needs to handle these three differently than the other kids. Some of the adventures they get into will not always be tame.
Yeah.
Such an interesting word choice. It's very C.S. Lewis. With, I mean, that's the whole thing with Aslan. Is that he's not tame. And so I was like, oh, it's funny to just, I don't know. I once again feel like I don't know what connections I should be drawing and what I shouldn't. It's kind of stream of consciousness for me. But he doesn't want to limit them.
Yeah.
Can we finish the episode and then loop back, I guess? Because we're so close at this point. Yeah. And we've got a lot we got to talk about. So Emily's dad comes to pick her up. Whit has already filled him in. And Maury asks Emily if, like, they can be friends. And she's like, I have no idea.
Yeah, which I think is a very good answer.
Yes, no, that is the correct answer. Actually, the correct answer might be no. But at the very least, like, this is a good attitude. Then they go through this whole thing about, like, Mado not being there and her being their legal guardian and this being the place that Maury's dad wants them. And Whit agrees to temporarily take in Maury and Suzu which I think we called.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's interesting. Because this sort of thing has almost happened so many times over the history of Odyssey, and it never does.
Where Wit takes somebody in?
Like, there are multiple circumstances where Wit is, like, considering taking someone in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, like, Tony and Brianna are the, like, big ones that we can think of, and where he does take them in for a bit.
Yeah.
But even, like, Clara, like, the idea of Wit, like, more directly, like having children in his household is something the show has flirted with a lot and always said, like, no. Yeah. And so it's interesting, even though it's temporary, that this is happening.
Well, and to be honest with you, I like Stoica Wit being a dad or a grandfather.
Yeah.
To these kids. I think that his voice is amazing. I love Andre Stoica's voice, and I think I've talked about it on the show before. I think that he's a very good Wit, and I'm excited to hopefully see what they do. What they do with that. I mean, I like Mori and Suzu. We've talked about that before, where I like their characters. I hope that they continue with them. So I can't say that I'm mad to see these characters carry on, especially if it means that they still get to be in Odyssey. And you do get this kind of idea that for Mori and Suzu, it's good for them to be in Odyssey, and they're beginning to recognize that. And I will say that the show does a decent job as far as tying that into them not having good, trusting relationships and then watching these people be genuine. And I think Suzu, who is somebody who has historically been sensitive to the actions of other people, especially Emily, when Emily literally sacrificed herself to save her, like, I think that if they talk about that, it's only going to be Suzu being like, that was the moment that I decided to be a Christian, or like, that was a turning point for me, and trusting the people here and believing that this was good for me. Like, I think that's very, very good. Wit is very, in this scene, very emphasis of consequences, which is true. But that's just kind of Wit's thing.
Yeah. Right. And it literally ends with him like saying there will be some consequences and them groaning. Yeah. Which just feels so childish after what we've just been through.
Yeah. Yeah, like, oh, you're not going to have any TV because you stole a thing from an embassy that had a small fish in it with bio DNA technology or whatever. Like, yeah, I don't know. All right. Let's talk about the problem of evil. And by that, I mean what they did with Wit, because I know we have other stuff we want to talk about. And I just want to touch on it real quick. So the problem of evil, as is often called the Theodicy, in like historical and theological texts, is the idea of how can God exist with, how can a sovereign and all-loving and holy God create a universe that in which exists so much pain, evil, and suffering? Right. And that's kind of what this episode's talking about, right? So what is Wit's role here is he's permitting, as long as he knows about all of this, like, right, he even concedes, maybe I should have I should intervene sooner. To which I would say that, like, I don't know that you can paint a character to be like God and then have them say that and then go back to them being God. Because what picture is that painting about God?
Right.
It's really, really tough for me, because what you want for Wit in that situation is to be the adult and be like, hey, I want you guys to be first safe and yeah, like, I want you to be happy, and I want you to be healthy, and I want you to be safe. Like, those are, like, the three basic needs that adults seek to secure for their kids. And Wit does none of that. Like, Emily, over the course of this arc, is miserable, and unsafe, and unhealthy.
Yep.
Like,
but she gets so much joy out of solving these cases.
Yeah, so in what instance is Wit any better than Mrs. Mado?
Right.
Who's just doing something to fulfill her purpose.
It's
it's almost like looking at the world as a means to an end is flawed.
Yeah.
I think that the displeasure that I'm experiencing, I know for me it's just because I can't separate it from it, but like it doesn't sit well in my stomach because I don't think that the point of sadness is that sadness has to have a point. For me, like if you look at we've talked about the story of Job, like Job, bad stuff happened to Job not because he was a bad person. Bad stuff happened to Job because bad stuff happened to Job. It doesn't have to have a reason. But what we learn in that story is that you respond to bad things happening by understanding that you have a finite mind and that you are loved by an infinite God. And even when things are at its worst, you don't know, because Job had everything and more restored to him.
Yeah.
I think that that's just the only take, right?
Yeah.
It's so frustrating then to see Wit, who's like, well, maybe I should have intervened sooner. Like, I get it. I understand. You want to let kids develop on their own. But the idea that you use that to justify hands-off parenting that is neglecting the kid's thoughts and feelings is really tough.
Yeah.
And who knows? This is the problem of covering Odyssey, that we don't have anything after. We don't know what they're going to do with this. But historically, they haven't.
But the show is also saying that, Wit is saying that he allowed everything to happen and good came from it.
Yep. Which is exactly what Maury did.
Right. And Maury makes that comment and Wit, affirms him.
Yep.
Maury says, to bring out the good in people, and Wit kind of, nods along and is like, yeah.
Bringing the good out of people in God's way isn't the same as bringing out the good of people in man's way, even though they look the exact same. No, I would argue you're just changing what you think about God to make sense to you.
I cannot land where this episode lands with Maury's actions being justified because good came from them. Because also, what was the good that came from them? Emily and Matthew aren't even back together. Emily felt good about completing mysteries, and Mado got caught. All of that could have happened separate. It didn't. I don't.
I think I've said just about everything I wanted to say regarding that. It's tough.
I don't know if I have.
Okay, go for it, man.
No, I'm just. I kind of can't believe that Maury's actions were not condemned.
Well, they were semi-condemned in passing as a... Yeah, they weren't really condemned.
They were not condemned.
Not for the consequences that they should have. He is a criminal mastermind.
Yeah,
and they say that, he's just a kid. And that's true. That is true.
He is a child. So I'm not saying that he needs to be
He should go to juvie. He should go to juvie like Richard Maxwell. We should get another Maxwell arc. That was great.
Yeah, or just... The idea that there is this child who did a bunch of bad stuff for twisted motives, but that Wit allowed it because it was going to be for the greater good of the characters. I'm just I think my problem is maybe if Odyssey was a symbolic platform for storytelling, I could maybe understand what they were trying to do here and have still frustrations. But the fact that Odyssey is a grounded and realized place makes it that much harder for me to be okay with what they're suggesting.
Well, especially in the surrogate
because
nature.
it's not like an Aslan thing. Wit isn't there as a symbol of God. He is a human being.
Yeah, and the right thing for him to do would be to intercede on behalf of the children that are in danger.
Right.
Because he is
so... Oh, but they were never really in danger. But it's like, no.
No, there was another spy.
Well, absolutely. All of the Mado stuff. For sure. Which Wit is like the one thing Wit didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
But I think saying that they were never physically in harm's way throughout all of this...
And that's what justifies the ends?
Exactly.
What about the emotional damage?
Right. Then completely glosses over how emotionally scarring this is.
And the thing is that the characters have alluded to it. Like, the best part, at least for us, the best parts of this series have been when the characters are acknowledging what's happening.
Yeah. So, like, do you remember last episode when Maury and Wit are having a conversation about, and Maury is basically saying, well, I am doing the same things you were doing. And Wit starts to talk and then gets interrupted by Tasha. And we never loop back to that conversation.
Yeah.
When you and I talked about it, we were like, no, like what Maury does isn't like what Wit does, because like people have choice in some stuff, which people have then pointed out to me very fairly that there is also some instances, especially regarding like Room of Consequence, where like people are essentially unwillingly like manipulated.
Yeah.
And that, for me, thinking about Maury's point and thinking about that, is like, oh, is maybe Wit in the wrong? It turns out if that conversation had continued, Wit would have just said like, yes, Maury, you are just like me. What you're doing is great.
Yeah.
Like, that's where this episode ends.
Yeah.
Is with this idea that like what Maury's doing is good.
It's so good.
And
clearly.
I can't
can't
handle that.
Especially because the entire arc has been watching him hurt characters that we genuinely enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just pisses me off. Like, I can't get into this. The other thing is just like the logical...
This album is titled Best Kept Secrets. I don't think they were best or kept.
Yeah. I don't know. And then... Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna just go and poke more frustration holes in like how this whole thing works as a saga and whatever, because it's the end. I'm just whatever. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
But the two things that really bother me. One, the first part of the Rydell Revelations, Wit has that whole thing where he like confronts Maury and he's like, actually, I do think you've been evil this whole time.
Yeah.
And he's like, and one of the reasons that like helped me get to that is like I met Anya Popoff and like that Jordan guy, and like they told me this stuff, and it's like, yeah, but you also claim to have already known everything.
Yeah.
So why did you need that? It wasn't like Wit solved a mystery. He had the completed document and was looking at it.
Well, if he definitely had a much more simplified version of the mystery.
Yeah.
Like a infinitely more simplified.
Right.
And yet he comes out on top and he's like, see, I was right all along.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like, wait,
what?
You knew everything the whole time and you allowed this, but like you didn't know things. The reason in the first episode, what you present, John Avery Whittaker, is that you were able to piece together this mystery based off of seeing these people and analyzing the audio. What you tell us in this episode is you knew at the time of those events that Maury was behind it. So which is it? Were you lying to Maury in the first episode, or are you lying now? These cannot both be true. You presented to Maury that you solved the mystery through these means, and then you told everyone here at the end that they weren't in danger, that you knew all along.
Yeah, you make an excellent point.
I just don't get it. And also, I would like to read, word for word, Wit's prayer at the end of the secret of the writer's ruse that we talked about in that episode as being really good at being Wit having a hint that something wasn't sitting right, but not knowing what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about in that episode how good it was for Wit to, like, notice that something was up and be calling out to God to help figure it out. But he knew everything all along.
Because he's God.
So he doesn't... So, like, this prayer is moot. But here it is anyways.
So Christians are hypocrites. Is that what we're learning?
Yeah, Wit's a hypocrite. Dear Lord, there was something about that moment that wasn't right. Maury said he wanted to make Matthew and Emily feel better, but there's more to it than that. There's a secret here that feels unsettling. You're the revealer of secrets, Lord. If there's something more to this, something I need to do, make it clear to me. Cut to, I knew everything all along. I allowed it to happen. It was good.
Because I was acting in accordance to God because he didn't tell me to do
those
anything.
Things are just in such...
That's the only way I can conceivably connect it.
They're at odds with each other in a way that really bothers me.
No, they totally are. Because they took a Wit character that we love and that we saw good parts of in this series, and then they were like... made him complicit with the emotional scarring of children, and just, that's like the opposite of Wit.
Yeah, and where I thought like maybe there was
go meta, and then they were like, "Oh, it's meta. It's all about it's bigger than this. This isn't just this microcosm. This is sometimes in life you just gotta let kids be kids and let them figure stuff out on their own." It's like, why? This episode could have been 21 minutes and I would have liked it way more.
But just that thing of... Right, because the thing is, we can nitpick the plot details, and that's fun, and we do it, and we are...
It's fun.
Right. But the thing that matters at the end of the day is for us to get into what the theology here is.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm having issue. I can look past plot details. They can make me upset, but in like a jokey way.
Yeah.
This is like genuinely upsetting.
So what do you think? So here's my question.
Yeah.
If we have this thing conveyed where, like, what do you think the solution to the problem of evil is? Or what do you said that you have theological disagreements, like, do you have any sort of counter thoughts, not necessarily answers, but things that you would suggest instead?
The point I was trying to make is that I believe that God works all things to his good.
Amen. Hallelujah.
I do not believe that Wit works all things to his good.
Amen. Hallelujah. Mod Fam Chalk Pod out.
Like, I don't think that...
Wit is not God. New
yeah, well, like, I don't...
Instead of God's not Wit.
I don't... The Wit taking a backseat because he believed that, like, all these things were going to play out in a way that is good is just really hard for me to live with.
Mm-hmm. So,
because it's not...
So as a parent, I've heard a lot of things, or not as a parent, I have children. From my parents, I've heard a lot of things, and that functioning as a parent is very difficult as far as knowing when to intercede as far as in the lives of your children and manipulate things. And that
yep.
So that's a very reasonable thing to do. But they're people, and you can't, like, the question... This is entirely solved by Wit saying, I should have stepped in sooner, instead of saying, maybe I should have.
Right.
I should have stepped in sooner. This is, you want that prayer that we just brought back up that meant something? You want that to keep meaning something? Say that Wit screwed up.
Dude, imagine if the show let Wit be fallible in this instance. and say like,
it only took him 900 episodes.
but no, he's like, no, this is all good. Like this was,
it's fine. We're fine.
Because there's the version of this that works is him saying, I screwed up. I thought I could just let things go. They clearly got out of hand. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. In the way that I thought...
But even in that, even in my failure, God clearly made good things come of it.
Because you guys are good people, and even though bad things happen to you, God used them for his good.
And even if we don't know, like, where this is going to go and how this will affect you in the long term. But, like, I believe that these events are shaping you into a better person.
I will hold out judgment of this episode until 901 is released. And if it's not Wit just eating his own feet and being like, I screwed up, then I'm...
Because right, that is the smallest writing change that makes a huge difference, and I think is more impactful than what happens in this.
Well, and then
Wit
it makes
saying I screwed up, I was out of line, I let things go too far, but at the end of the day, God is still in control. He made the right things happen. I don't know how all of this plays out, but it will be to his glory.
And then that leads so well into them living with him.
Right.
And then we get this whole wonderful setup.
But instead, he's like, the show can't quite, like...
They can't bring themselves to make Wit fallible.
Well, right. It's this thing. It's the thing of, like, they can't quite decide if it's a metaphor or not.
Yeah.
Like, is this allegory? Is
this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
But, like, is this allegorical in that, like, Wit is God and so, like, his actions are justified? Or is this, like, or is he a human character? And, like, the show has always presented him as a human character. He has screwed up in the past, and we have covered that on this show, and it is great.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they don't show him screwing up here and instead just kind of double down in a way where it's like, it is...
I think it's emblematic.
It is... So here's what I'm going to say. It is God being all-powerful and righteous and holy. He is, like, he has the ability and the I want to say permission, because that makes it sound like there would be things like he's like not like whatever, like who's giving him that permission is obviously, but like
he has the independence to intercede in whatever aspect of creation he desires.
God can have, like, in scripture we see instances where bad things happen not only because God didn't intervene, but at God's hand. God can do that because he is God. Humans cannot do that.
Because humans are not God.
Like, right. Because it is morally bankrupt for a human to claim that they are that they did something bad so that something good could happen.
100%. 100%. And so
that is not true of God.
The theological difficulties that you were saying, like, I think that boils, like, I think that comes back to just, it doesn't sit well that you're applying a human sense of justice to God.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
But like, that's how, like, just the nature of theology, and I've learned so much about this in school, it's just like, it's just people. Everybody, John Calvin was a person, Martin Luther was a person. These are all just people, and all people are just throwing pencils at the ceiling to see which ones stick. And theology is just the same. And some people have sharper pencils, and so they stay up there a little bit longer. But that's about it. They're all just pencils. They're all just ideas. And there's, like, to say that one pencil is entirely right, that's to discredit all the other pencils that are sitting up there as well. Right. And you know.
Yeah, and to say that one person has it all figured out is to discredit God.
Exactly. And it's just like, do you really want to do that? Do you really want to put that kind of pressure on yourself?
And so the path that the show is taking, just to be clear that I haven't, like, taken, like, that I'm not over, like, exaggerating things or whatever. I recognize the show is not saying Wit did a bad thing so that something good would happen. Mm-hmm. The show is saying that Wit permitted bad things so that good things could happen, and I still don't think that is morally sound.
Because it's not Wit's role.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else to say about this episode?
That's where we have to.
We got it.
That's where we have to end things here.
I gotta take medicine.
But just, yeah, thank you for coming along on this adventure with us, listeners. I would love to hear the things that this episode conjured up in you.
Yeah.
You know the ways to reach out to us. There will be links in the show notes, as always. But yeah.
Can I plug something?
Let us know. Yeah, you plug something, I'll plug something, then we'll get out of here.
All right. So I actually have something to plug this week. I went on the AIO Audio News podcast with mentioned frequently on the show Lee or Michael, and we talked about an episode called Connie the Counselor. And it's one of the newer episodes, so if you're listening to this and you think to yourself, you know what, I just want some more Odyssey and I want to listen to Andrew and Michael talk about counseling, I had a great time recording it. It was fun. It was a great episode. I have some pretty hot takes not hot takes, but I have some pretty fun takes regarding, what does it look like for Connie to be going to school for counseling, and it was really fun.
Yeah,
because I didn't know that was ever a part of the show at all, and then she started using counseling lingo, and I was like, wait a second.
Right. It's like you know, Chalk Squad, when we get like people like Arthur or Drew on to talk about episodes that are things that they're passionate about.
It's like that.
It's like that, but it's Andrew and it's someone else's show.
Yep, exactly. And if you ever want to, listen to what my voice sounds like on not a show that I am involved in the making of, go for it.
Yeah, so there will be a link in our show notes to that.
And Dylan, what do you got to plug this week?
Our own merch.
Let's plug our own merch! Sell out!
Guys, we have a sweater.
Yeah, and it's pretty nice.
That will be on sale until Christmas.
It's real nice, actually.
It is our logo on a green sweater. I love it. I spent a serious amount of time designing it. If you are listening to this when it comes out, you can still order it because you have until December 25th, but you won't get it in time for Christmas. So I'm sorry about that. But you can still get a dope sweater that has our logo on it. And
you can just show them a picture of it on the website, and they'll be all the more excited. I mean, it's a great Christmas present because it's given not on Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, there's that. And with all that being said, we're going to be back in a week with our annual Christmas episode.
Hey.
What are we covering this time? Who knows? You'll just have to tune in to find out.
We fly off the cuff.
And this one's going to be numbered.
Yeah, it will.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Wad Fam Chalk Pod is a presentation of the Lidditz Podcast Co-op. This show is a fan podcast and has no official affiliation with Adventures in Odyssey or Focus on the Family. As such, the copyright is ours under Creative Commons. Follow the podcast at WadFamChalkPod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com. The Rydell Revelations Part 3 was hosted by Dylan Weaver and Andrew Acebo, and edited by Dylan Weaver. And I'm Nathan Haverstick, hoping you'll join us again next time for more of the Wad Fam Shock Pod.